Hello, my name is Mordred Viking, and I'd like to welcome you to this brand new series. Indeed, this brand new game. This is Imperator Rome, which was very kindly given to me by Paradox. This is during the embargo. Well, no, it's just after the embargo. Let's get that right. So it is still a preview. This is a preview build, so there may be a couple of bugs and things appearing here and there, but this is new. And I'm rather excited to be showing you this right now. So we are going to jump in. I should actually mention before we get started here that I am probably live right now, if you're watching this on the day that this video goes live, doing a multiplayer stream with a whole bunch of other YouTubers. So if you want to head over to twitch.tv/MordredViking, don't worry, this YouTube video will still be here a little bit later. Go check that out because that's live. It's going to be awesome, and I'm really excited to be a part of that. But in the meantime, let's jump into this. So a lot of people on my Discord have been saying, hey Mordred, who are you going to play as? And I was staring at this rather lovely map, and I love the way it scrolls, by the way. It kind of feels like a globe. It feels really good. Thinking, who do I want to do? And I was thinking, you know what, someone like Athens could be quite good. Athens is coastal, they're naval, they do a lot of trade, and I quite like the Republican element to it. Plus, it's in a very interesting area with loads of smaller city-states that we can interact with. However, Paradox also said, we're looking to update our naval mechanics, and there will probably be a patch in the not-so-distant future where we do that. So I was thinking, okay, maybe not quite the moment for a naval game. So who else is there? Well, I would like to introduce you to a nation that you've probably all heard of, and yet know very little about. They are a nation that originated in Germany. They are called the Langobards. Now, the Langobards, they're immediately probably going, well, who on earth are they? Well, Langobard is Old Germanic for the Longbeards. And the Longbeards are a people that you may know now as a people of myth and legend. We call them dwarves. Okay, so we're going to jump in as the Langobards, and yes, that was the actual loading time. Like, there is no loading screens. Well, there's a loading screen when you start a new game, but when you actually choose the nations, just boom, you're in. Which is also kind of took me by surprise the first time I did it. So, who are the Langobards? Well, they are a migratory horde, which actually is really cool. The first time I played as a migratory nation, I was actually playing as Frisia for obvious reasons. And I actually got completely and utterly stomped. I was reduced to a one-province minor, and I was thinking, okay, I am basically dead. Oh wait, what's this migrate button? And I just ran away and actually ended up establishing myself in Holland and basically just walked away from my enemies, just moved the entire nation, kind of similar to how the Native Americans work in Europa Universalis. But there's a lot more to the migrations for us. So the early game is going to be focused on not dying while we get the resources that we require to migrate. And that's really actually going to be quite simple. We can do it in maybe 3 months. I'm going to slow down and talk about the different monarch points, the different mechanics, the different populations as we get to them. So I am going to take this series quite slowly. I'm sorry for that. But this is a brand new game. I'm still kind of learning this. I've had maybe a week or so to play, but I've been actively streaming and doing my regular content, so I haven't had as much time on this as I perhaps would have liked. But I have played, I think, 3 games now as the Langobards, just to make sure that this is feasible. And it is. So this is a tale of the Dwarven journey. They start in the forests of Germany, and that kind of explains why they hate elves. I mean, basically anything to do with the woodland disgusts them. They want to leave, they want to get away from this, and they want to move east. So the Langobards have something rather interesting. They are one of the Germanic powers that actually have access to horses, and it's a little known fact that dwarves are excellent horsemen. However, they need to find more places for their horses to roam wild. They need to find some steppes, and they have heard of the legendary steppes of the east. So they're going to be focusing on basically moving eastwards. I'm not going to go and look too far over there yet because that might spoil a couple of things. So we need to start gathering the disparate peoples from Angria, from Avarpi, from Mesovorium into just 2 provinces. And I'm going to say, actually 3 provinces. 3 provinces. And the way that we do that is by interacting with the population. So if we click on one of these provinces, sorry, need to get that right. What used to be called a province in Europa Universalis is now a city. So these individual units of land are actually cities. Then the entire area, what would actually have been called an area in EU4, is a province. So we have the province of Langobardia, which is comprised of all of these various cities. And this allows the map to be divided into a lot of very, very small areas. I mean, if we look in Sicily, for example, Sicily, which comprises of 3-4 provinces in Europa Universalis, is 16 here. Even Crete, which is 1 province, or is it 2? No, I'm pretty sure it's 1 province. In EU4 is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 provinces. So the world is far more divided up. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. We need to start gathering the tribes. So we have a lot of population here in the province of Langobardia. So we need to start moving people towards it. We have to get people from all of these. This is actually the Markermans. That's one of our neighbours. It's just a different colour because we have the province selected. It's not actually ours, even though it kind of looks like it might be, just because the colours are quite similar. It's not. So we're going to click on one of the citizens. So we'll choose our freeman. We can see various stats about the freeman in our city. There's only one. He is a Swabian. He is 2-stick, and he can be promoted and he can be moved. We're going to be moving him to Langobardia. That means that Angia has 1 less freeman, and then that extra freeman has now appeared in Langobardia. All of our people do start of the same culture, of the same faith, but if you're playing in some other areas, that's probably not true. Like, I think Egypt, their citizens are Egyptian, or maybe Greek, because this is post-Alexandria. This is Ptolemaic Egypt. And then your people will be Egyptian. I think the rulers are something different. We're also going to move the tribesmen, and I'll talk more about what the different pops are all about and what they do later. We're going to move you to Langobardia as well. So now Angia is completely empty. There's nobody living here, and other people, if they wanted to, could move there. So we are basically just going to be leaving this bare patch of territory here in Germany. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is start moving people from Armenia. Also going to go to Langobardia. And each time we do this, it's costing us 20 civic power. The main use for civic power is technology. So we are going to be setting ourselves back a little bit. I mean, it's not actually technology, it's the inventions. So as you go through the different technologies, which are over here on the left, you then access new inventions. And you can spend 100 civic power to unlock an invention. The inventions do different cool things. So ordinarily, for example, I would start out with herbalism, which gives you an extra 5% technology speed, which basically speeds up all technology advances by 5%. But it's way more important that we start the migration system as early as possible. The reason I'm moving everyone to Langobardia, by the way, is because the population here was already pretty high, and you need to have a minimum of 3 pops in a city to move them away. So let's also get Mercivorium, 2 people. We're going to move you to Sistula. And we're also going to grab Nuthonia and move them to Sistula. You can see that we've only got 60 points left, so we are draining this rather quick. And then we have a Varpi. Oh no! Disaster! We only have 40 points. Each population costs 20. We're going to move 2 of them. We're going to move you to Sistula. We're going to move you to Sistula. So there is now just Sistula and Langobardia. When we press the migration button, which is over here, it will cost us 75 civic power, which is this one up here, per province. So it doesn't matter how many people you have in your province, it just costs 75 per province, which is why I'm trying to consolidate all of my people into as few provinces as possible so that we can uproot and then leave. However, we are out of civic power, but this game does actually allow you, if I can remember where, to buy... Aha! Here it is. Points. So we could spend 22 of our ducats. I don't actually know if they're probably actually called ducats, because that was the Roman money, wasn't it? I think it was. To buy some civic power. So we're going to... to buy some... Yeah, civic power. So we're going to do that. It will increase the cost every time you do this, and this cost will reset every time you get a new ruler. We'll talk more about being a migratory tribe and what that means for our government a little bit later. So that last population from Avarpi can then be moved. Actually, it doesn't matter. We can move them to Sistula or Langobardia. Let's put you in Sistula, though, because... Actually, no. Let's put you in Langobardia. See, 8 population, 8 population. And there we go. We are now split in two. And we still have our two armies. Each of these armies is a clan retinue. So clan retinues are one of the unique things about tribes. We don't raise very many of our own troops. In fact, it's actually quite expensive for us to do that. But we do get these guys who are effectively free. I think we do have to pay for manpower if they need to be replenished, but they don't cost us anything to build. They may also cost us a little bit in upkeep. Nope, I think the characters actually pay for their own upkeep. So if we click on the character, this is a good segue into this whole system. We can see that we have Sunlek Segmundrus, who is a clan chief. Each clan will have their own retinue. We have two clans. Actually, we have three clans. Ergo, we have two retinues. The third clan being the ruling clan. The whole nation is theirs. Each character will have a set wealth. And then the clan leaders will spend that wealth to build new soldiers. And if their military grows too large in comparison to your own, for example, then they could become disloyal and try to split away. And we can see their loyalty setting up here. So at the moment he's got minus 0.84 a month because of his loyal cohorts. His army is that big that he's basically going, oh, you know what? I should probably be the chief because, you know, I got the biggest army. So that could well cause a problem in the future, and we'll need to bribe him. We'll need to try and befriend him. We'll need to give him special abilities or offices, or turn him into an actual general, stuff like that, which will then boost his loyalty. But we'll worry about that a little bit later. First of all, though, we do notice that we are completely surrounded. We're completely landlocked. So we're going to start delving into a little bit of diplomacy. This diplomacy is going to be temporary, but it should at least cover our backs while we're migrating. And it's also, hopefully, going to ensure that we can actually, get out. So we're going to go to the Diplomacy tab, which is over here, and then we can sort this by opinion. Varnia, Semonia, Marcominia, Fosia, Rudginia, Cherusia all have a little bit of positive relation, and I think that's because they are the same culture that we are. No, same religion. So because these guys are all the same religion, they get a bonus, and we can actually see where they are just by hovering over, which is super helpful. That's actually really cool. Some of the quality of life and UI stuff in this game, double thumbs up even, is really good. So we're going to have a word with Varnia. We're going to select alliance options, and then we're going to invite them to the defensive league. We are not going to form an alliance. We're going to do the defensive league. Defensive leagues are basically a way for minor powers, and we are a minor power at this point, to band together into a group. Anyone who attacks, any outsider who attacks that group, declares war on all of them. We are basically an ancient NATO. However, nations within the defensive league can declare war on each other, no problem. So there's going to be a lot of power struggles, there's going to be a lot of play and intrigue within the league. But as soon as an outsider comes and attacks the league, then everyone suddenly bands together and faces off against that guy. Alliances are different in that it is... and defensive leagues are only defensive. You can't declare war on someone in the league. We're just yeah, fine, it's your war, deal with it. Allies you can actually call. So an alliance is the way that we would consider an alliance from other Paradox games. I help you, you help me. We're good friends. You are limited in the number of allies you can have, which is shown up here by your active diplomatic relations. So we can have up to 4 allies. I think the defensive league counts as one of those. So we're going to send one to Varnia, to Simonia, to Macromania, to Fosia, Rudigia, and then Cruzia. Now you actually kind of want to do this as soon as the game starts before unpausing, otherwise they will start forming their own defensive leagues, and then you have rival leagues facing off against each other who don't want to, well, actually will accept new members, but then there's rivalries between those leagues. So right now we've got everyone in just one group, and I'm hoping that that would increase popularity. It hasn't. So let's have a word with Macromania and say, hey, can I have access? I can. So we're going to have to wait 1 month until that happens. So rather than having diplomats, you'll notice we have no agents. There's no diplomats, there's no merchants, there's no colonists, there's no missionaries, nothing like that. Instead, every military action here will take a certain amount of time or will cost you resources. So if we do the relation actions, for example, improving opinion, which will be very familiar to those from Europa Universalis, that's going to cost us some civic power. So if we wanted to increase opinion with someone, rather than it spending a diplomat slot for a certain amount of time, it will cost us civic power, and then we'll increase to a certain maximum. I don't know offhand what that maximum is, but I do know that there are technologies which increase the power of your improved relations abilities. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. We'll need to wait 1 month, so the 31st of October, we'll have a word with the Markman to say, hey, let me out. In the meantime, let's move our retinues to the 2 provinces we actually still own, so that they don't take attrition. One other thing that should be noted is winter attrition in this game is harsh. It is very harsh. And we are in Northern Europe, so winter is very, very harsh for us. So we want to be suffering as little attrition as possible, because manpower recovers really slowly. Like, really slowly. So be very, very careful with manpower. Like, suffer as little attrition as you possibly can. Believe me, it'll pay off. If we look through these 4 icons up here, these are basically the notification flags that you get in the other Paradox games. We have one which is saying you have a bad research ratio. That's because we don't have very many citizens. Fine, we're a tribe. We don't actually deal with citizens very much. Citizens are your primary means of generating research. So if you're a civilized state, if you're like in Greece or something like that and you have a lot of citizens, your technology is going to advance at a very rapid rate, which is really cool. But for us, not hugely important right now. And you can actually hover over the different pops to show what they do. So every single citizen will provide 0.1 research points and 0.0 commerce at the moment. And that 0.0 is because we have no trade routes. So that's going to be the next thing we look at, and is in fact the next icon. So in your capital, you have a default trade route allowance of 1. You can also see what you're producing. So the number of icons up here from the province of Langobards, and this is always on a provincial level trade, was a lot more. So when we actually owned all of these provinces, we had access to the resources they produce. So like the grain from Newtonia, the leather from Varpi, the woad from Mersovorium, etc. But now we only have access to grain, which increases the population growth of our entire province by 0.1, and then woad, which increases the tribesman happiness by 10%. We are a tribe. Woad is actually really valuable for us, because tribesmen are going to be a very large part of our population. Langobardia, there's only 4, but in Sistula, there's actually 7 tribesmen. And tribesmen are cool because they generate base tax and manpower. Tribesmen in a tribe are generally pretty happy. They're pretty content with life. Tribesmen in a civilized state like Rome or the Greek city-states or Egypt or anything like that, not very happy. You generally want to be promoting your tribesmen into freemen, which is a useful promotion to do because you don't get a lot of manpower from a tribesman. You get loads of manpower from freemen, but you will notice freemen don't produce any base tax. So if you do promote all of your tribesmen, suddenly your economy is going to tank. Unless, of course, you have slaves. Slaves are the 4th type of population unit that you can have, and they provide a lot of base tax, an awful lot of base tax. Furthermore, for every 15 slaves that you have in a city, they will generate 1 more trade good of that type, which you can then sell, and that is really, really useful. The primary way of getting slaves, and this is a mechanic I particularly like. I'm not saying that I like slavery, it's just the way that they have... There is no way I can say this and it sounds good. A cool mechanic that this game has is how slavery is managed. If you attack and conquer a city, there is a chance a portion of that city's population will be transferred to your own cities as slaves. So for example, if we declared war on Fosa, occupied it, not conquered, occupy, then a portion of the city of Fosia's population will be transferred to one of our own provinces. I don't know exactly how that's done, as slaves. Those slaves then generate a lot of base tax. They also generate the trade goods that you have, and will like provide unrest and stuff like that. So those are the 4 different population types. I was going to talk about those in more detail later on. I hadn't quite intended to do it yet, but it's fine. It seems to be a good segue. So we're going to take a look at trade routes. If we click on this, we can see all of the different goods in the game. And there are many, 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 many of them. However, there are a couple which I would say are more important early on than some of the others. So if you're playing a smaller nation like we are, you're probably particularly interested in the growth resources like grain, fish, and livestock. So for having a source of grain in a province, you will gain local population growth. Now that source of grain can either be locally produced or traded in. It doesn't matter. If you have a surplus of grain, so for example if you have 15 slaves and you produce 2 grain instead of the 1 point which you would get by default, then you get an extra 0.5 for every additional unit of grain. Furthermore, if you have a surplus of grain in your capital, i.e. if you have grain in your capital, then you will gain an additional 10% national manpower. So you generally want to have loads of trade goods flowing into your capital, and there are various ways of increasing the trade import allowance of your capital, one of which, for example, is your governor policy. I'll talk more about these when they actually become useful, but the local import routes, by encouraging trade, you can generate another local import route, which will then increase that to 2. You can trade more. The other really important thing about trade is it is a very good way of making money. And hopefully we'll get into that later. But right now, we don't actually have the civic power required to set up a trade route. So every trade route you want to generate will cost you 25 civic power. And we can't afford that because we just spent it all on migrating people. And I don't really want to spend more of my treasury on monarch points just yet. So that's just going to have to stay unused. There are scorned families, which doesn't really matter because I don't think they're a clan. No. And then an omen. The omens we probably should have a look at. So the star here is religious power, and religious power is used on omens and also on stability. So it's quite important to note there is a button right here. It will cost you 300 religious power, piety, pietos, or whatever they call it, and that will increase your stability by +1. Stability works identically to Europa Universalis, so it goes from a scale of -3 to +3. It is currently 1, as you can see up here, and having more stability gives you more bonuses, but also makes the sacrifice action cost more. So we could spend 300 religious power on a sacrifice, or we can spend 200 religious power on an omen, and an omen is a timed bonus. So we could get more discipline, we can get aggressive expansion, we can get manpower, commerce income, research, unrest, tax, or population. I don't think I actually want to do one of these right now. I was thinking maybe we probably should if there was like an attrition omen, but I don't think there is. I don't know if the omens change depending on which religion you are. I would suspect they do. I haven't actually thought of checking that before. The only ones I've ever really used is Titus, the War Chant, and the Aegis of the Ancestors, and I know the Romans had those 3 as well. I don't know about the others. I think these are not unique. I think these are generics, just the names are changed for flavour. I think we're good to unpause. Right, the other thing we should probably mention are the scorned families. I must confess I have not spent a very long time looking at the different characters and what all the different characters do. But one of the things that is around are different families. So we have the Geraldes, which I believe is the ruling family, the Segrimundri, the Dagorices, Malagri, and Idigas. And then as your population grows, the number of families in your nation will grow as well. Like Rome probably has 30 families at the start of the game, while we only have 5 because our population is really quite small in comparison. If we just click on the nation overview, we can see our boss man, which is Sigismund Geraldus. So Geraldus is indeed the head of the family. Then if we go to the government tab, we can see who the different clan chiefs are. We are one of them. The Geraldus tribe is one. Then we also have the Segrimundrus and the Dagoricius. So we need to be very careful of those two, because if they become too disloyal, they will rebel and start a civil war. Those are really bad. You want to try to avoid those if you can. And the way to keep an eye on that is basically in this screen. You can see their loyalty. Just make sure it stays above about 40% and you should be good. 33% is like the danger cutoff. If it drops below 33%, then they will start fermenting a civil war essentially. Other family members can, or other families can do that too, but they don't build armies in the same way that these guys do, so are generally a little bit less dangerous and can be sent to prison, bribed, executed. Like, it's very Crusader Kings 2 in how that works, though definitely not to the same level of detail like CK2. Like, you can't choose who your wife is going to be. That just happens. You don't have much influence over your children's education or anything like that. It's just the families are there, they have different stats. You then manipulate those characters in your government, and that is really the main use for them. And you will notice actually that we have 8 different characters in our government right now. So we have an arbiter, an elder, a war chief, a bodyguard, a high priest, a wise one, a magistrate, and an apothecary. Each of them has a different stat. So the arbitrator and the elder both use oratory, the war chief and the bodyguard both use military, high priest and the wise one both use religious, and then the magistrate and the apothecary both use civic, and they all have different abilities. So the arbitrator will reduce the aggressive expansion in your nation by 0.03, and that is determined by their skill. So the more skilled your arbitrator, the better aggressive expansion reduction you will have. Same for national tribesman happiness, though the elder is going to be very important for us because we want to keep those tribesmen happy. Cohort recruitment speed from the war chief means you can build units and armies more quickly. The bodyguard manpower recovery +6, really important actually. I'm actually kind of tempted to switch those two around. High priest increases the omen power. So when we were looking at the different omens, it's going to take me a while to learn all these icons. I'm going to keep on flicking between them. Will determine how strong the actual omen is. So if we had a better, whatever that dude was, then we would get bigger bonuses from these. National citizen happiness, so that was the other type of population. Citizens are the scientists, so the better the wise man, the better the citizens. National tax from the magistrate, so if you have a really good magistrate, will earn more taxes, which is really good if you have a lot of slaves, not so good if you have a lot of freemen. And then the apothecary, which increases health. I suspect that's the health of all of your citizens. I don't actually know how this one works, so this one's still a little bit of a mystery. I think that's all of that done for now. Let's just go ahead and unpause, let our people move around, and then basically we're going to wait until the 31st of August for the Mar Command to be available for another treaty, which is going to be the military access, so that we can escape. So one thing is important to note: migratory hordes, they can leave whenever they like, they can go through anyone's territory, completely irrelevant. I think they can also settle anywhere. I have not confirmed that, I have not tried it, I've only ever moved to these empty regions, which is pretty nice, because there's basically just a big buffer between the migratory hordes, which is basically all of these guys, the settled tribes, which is all of these guys, and then the civilized, which is all of these guys. So you'll have the migratories like moving south over time, you'll have some of the settled and some of the civilized building outposts and colonies and basically pushing north, and then all of the tensions resulting from the clash of those two different types of cultures, which is kind of cool. I've not actually got far enough into the game for that to happen, but I'm hoping that we get to see that during this one. Right, let's continue. 31, and then the 1st of November. Mar Commands, what up? I would very much like to have military access. So we've now got access to the Mar Commands. These guys can basically uproot and leave. So we're going to start our great adventure going east. I'm going to send these guys out first because I don't want to have my armies on top of my migratory hordes, because that will cause attrition. So we're going to let them move a province or two, and then we're going to uproot and start shifting ourselves. Okay, a little bit further. Right. Now we can press the buttons. So we can do this. We'll start a migration. We will abandon that province and actually leave behind the buildings. No, we won't. I was thinking that was leaving behind a fortress, but there's no fortress here, so I guess that's just a graphical bug. And then we have this new army, which is just a remarkably familiar 9 units of light infantry. So for every population, or every pop that you had in a province, they then become 1,000 light infantry, and you can just send them off and just move them like that. And we're going to do the same thing here. Boom. And now we have no nation. We are completely nomadic. And it is at that point I'm going to end this episode. So thank you everyone for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, be sure to hit that follow button so you get notifications when I'm live again in the future. Man, that's just my that's my live stream outro. If you've enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button. That's YouTube, right? Yeah, subscribe. If you've really enjoyed this, then go check out my Patreon, which you can find linked in the description below. If you want to see more of this type of thing, head on over to my Twitch. So the plan is for the first 6 episodes, I'm going to pre-record. So 3 of them are going to be today, 3 of them are going to be tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'm doing a Twitch stream where I'll be basically continuing this series. So if you want to see this series live, tune into my Twitch stream tomorrow. That's going to be kicking off at 5 PM in the evening, and is going to be going for basically the rest of the afternoon/evening. So it'd be great if you could join us. They can find that at twitch.tv/Mordred Viking if you've not joined us before. And then after that, don't worry, I will continue to cut up the Twitch streams and upload them here onto YouTube. It's just if you want to ask me questions, give me advice, see what's up, ask me to explain more features or anything like that. It's just a lot easier to do live on the Twitch stream, or you can, of course, leave a comment down below, and I will try to answer that as best as I can. So, until the next episode, which is probably going to go right after this one. You're so lucky. I'll see you later. Thanks, everyone. Bye.